Welcome to AI Horror Stories. Get ready to be chilled to the bone with terrifying tales from around the world. Tonight, we delve into 3 unsettling stories: Beautiful Skin, a gruesome Inuit legend; Children of Bodom, the real-life horror that inspired a metal band; and The School Principal, a chilling encounter with the unknown. So, turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare to be spooked. Let's begin. 1 Beautiful Skin. The Beautiful Skin is a scary story with a gruesome ending. It's about a mother and daughter who live alone in the far north. It is based on an old Inuit legend. This happened far up north, where the nights are long and the days are short and it snows all year round and the ice is always thick on the ground. There was a mother and daughter who lived together in a small house in the middle of nowhere. The young girl was very beautiful and the old woman was not. They were Inuit people, Eskimos, some people call them, and they lived on the ice. During the day, the girl would hunt for seals, and when she caught one, she would bring it back to her mother. The old woman would skin it and gut it, and after she cooked it over the fire, they would eat. At night, when the harsh wind was blowing and the ice was creaking and groaning outside, the old woman would sit and comb her daughter's hair in front of the fire and tell stories about the olden times and people long dead. For a long time, they lived happily like this, until one day, a man appeared. One morning, in spring, the daughter was out hunting when she saw a tall, dark stranger approaching over the snow. She ran back to the house and told her mother what she had seen. Together, they went out to greet the stranger. He was a young man and he was tall and handsome. He said he had lost his way in the snow and needed a place to stay before it grew dark. The 2 women welcomed him into their house and set about fixing him a meal. The young man stayed with them longer than expected. Over time, he fell in love with the girl and she fell in love with him. They decided to get married and they lived together in the little house with the girl's mother. At night, the old woman would lie awake and listen to them kissing and cuddling in the dark. One day, the girl told her mother that they were going away. She said the young man was going to take her to his village and they would live there together as man and wife. The old woman didn't say anything. She thought about how it would be to live alone in the house with the cold wind blowing outside and the ice cracking and groaning all through the dark nights. She wondered how she would find food to cook. One day, when the young man was out hunting, the old woman told her daughter that she wanted to comb her beautiful hair. She said that the girl should look her most beautiful for her husband when he came home. The girl sat cross-legged on the floor at her mother's feet. The old woman began to comb her daughter's hair. She combed until it shone in the light of the lamp. Then, she took the girl's hair and began to twist around into a long braid. She wound it round the girl's neck and pulled, tighter and tighter, until she strangled her daughter to death. One day, the girl told her mother that they were going away. She said the young man was going to take her to his village and they would live there together as man and wife. The old woman didn't say anything. She thought about how it would be to live alone in the house with the cold wind blowing outside and the ice cracking and groaning all through the dark nights. She wondered how she would find food to cook. The old woman took a knife and carefully skinned the young girl's face. When she was done, she dragged her daughter's bloody, faceless body out of the house and buried her in the snow. Then, she mopped the floor and trampled down the red snow and covered up all traces of what she had done. When the young man came home, he found his wife in bed waiting for him. The old woman was nowhere to be seen. He climbed into bed with the girl and they began to kiss. Their kisses grew more passionate, and when the young man caressed her cheek, the girl's skin came off in his hands. A look of horror came over the young man's face. He couldn't understand what was going on. Terrified, he clawed and scratched at his wife's face and her skin came off, revealing the old woman's face underneath. He screamed and leaped out of the bed and, gasping and heaving, he ran out into the snow. He ran and ran until he was just a speck in the distance and the old woman watched him flee as tears flowed down her wrinkled cheeks. 2 Children of Bodom. Children of Bodom is a Finnish heavy metal band, and the group has an interesting story behind their name. Lake Bodom in Finland was the site of the grisly murder of 3 teenagers. It all began in the summer of 1960 at Lake Bodom, a freshwater lake near the city of Helsinki in Finland. 4 teenagers decided to go camping together. The boys, Nils and Seppo, were both 18 years old, while the girls Ermeli and Anya were 15. Seppo and Anya had been dating for a year, and Nils and Ermeli had been going out for 3 weeks. Despite the gruesome reputation Lake Bodom has today, it is a genuinely beautiful place, and, during the summer, it was a popular destination for youngsters. All 4 youths were from the town of Vantaa, and they set off for the trip on 2 motorcycles. They had a tent with them and some alcohol. They pitched their tent on the shores of Lake Bodom in the early evening and spent their time having fun before going to bed around midnight. When they drifted off to sleep that night, little did they know that, come morning, only one of them would still be alive. During the night, they were awoken by a strange sound. Someone had cut the ropes on their tent and it collapsed on top of them, trapping the teenagers under the canvas. Suddenly, they were attacked by a mysterious person who began savagely stabbing them through the canvas and bashing in their heads with a rock. The collapsed tent was like a death trap, and they were unable to escape. The next morning, their bodies were discovered by some swimmers who arrived at the campsite. 3 of the teenagers lay dead in a pool of their own blood. Nils was the only one who was still alive, but he was only semi-conscious. He was rushed to hospital and had serious injuries to the back of the head, a deep knife wound to the forehead, and a smashed jaw. The police rushed to the scene of the crime and began their investigation. The first thing they noticed was that some of the kids' possessions were missing, including their wallets and swimsuits. They conducted a search of the area and, half a mile away, they found some of the teenagers' clothes and a pair of shoes belonging to Nils. Even though they searched through the muddy lake bottom with metal detectors, they were never able to find the murder weapon. The Bodom Lake murders were the most brutal killings Finland had ever seen, and news of the incident left the entire country in a state of shock. Within an hour, the familiar lakeshore was filled with curious onlookers. They determined that the murders had to have taken place sometime between 4 and 6 in the morning. A woman who was washing some clothes on the opposite side of the lake saw someone fishing during the night. 2 young boys who were out birdwatching in the area claimed they saw the collapsed tent, and one of them even said he saw a fair-haired man walking away from it. Another boy who was fishing nearby also told police he saw a blond man hanging around the location. When Nils recovered and was well enough to be questioned by police, he told them he had no memory of anything that happened between the time they went to sleep that night and when he woke up later in hospital. In order to try and gain more information, the police put him under hypnosis. He said that he had managed to get out of the tent during the attack, at which point the killer had kicked him in the jaw. The strangest thing was what he told police about the killer. Nils said that the man's eyes were glowing red. The police had a lot of suspects and a number of people were arrested in connection with the killings, but there was never enough evidence to warrant a prosecution. Several individuals were prime suspects in the Lake Bodom murders. Some people even made false confessions, and a few who had been under suspicion of the crime later took their own lives. There was a man named Valdemar who owned a kiosk near the lake and sold lemonade. He was known to be very hot-tempered and angry and used to walk around the area at night. Locals say he hated young people and would throw stones at kids when they cycled by his house. He even supposedly confessed to the crime, before drowning himself in Bodom Lake in 1969. However, police discovered that he had an alibi. His wife said he was at home in bed with her all night. Doctors who worked at a nearby hospital said that, on the night of the murders, a man named Hans Assman turned up in their emergency room. His clothes were disheveled and he was in a very confused state. One doctor noticed blood stains on him, but it was not his own blood. The man couldn't speak Finnish, so they couldn't communicate with him, and he eventually left. The heavy metal band Children of Bodom took their name from the infamous crime, and they dedicate at least one song of every album to the murders. The name of the group was very controversial from the beginning, as well as their lyrics. They also produced t-shirts with slogans like, "I survived Lake Bodom." These lyrics are from the song Bodom Beach Terror. Late night you party until it's light while pointing at the sky, wash your hands in the lake of your blood just before you die. In 2004, more than 40 years after the murders, the police arrested Nils and charged him with the crime. After a long trial, he was found not guilty due to lack of evidence and his name was cleared. Today, the mystery remains unsolved. Who killed the 3 teenagers at Lake Bodom in 1960? Was it one of the suspects? Was it a complete stranger who never came to light? Or was it their friend Nils? What do you think? 3. The School Principal. The School Principal is a scary story about a young girl who is in class when her teacher comes in with some shocking news. My name is Sophia and this happened a long time ago when I was 10 years old and still in elementary school. It was the end of the lunch break and I was sitting in the classroom, chatting to my friends. Our teacher came in and walked straight over to me. Her face was pale and serious. "Sophia," she said. "I have some bad news. Just stay calm and listen. Your mother was in an accident at work. Get your things together and go to the principal's office." I was so shocked, I didn't know what to think. My friends gathered around me and tried to console me. In a daze, I packed my schoolbooks into my bag and headed out the door. The school principal was waiting for me in his office. "I just got off the phone with your father," he said. "He told me your mother was badly injured. He's rushing to the hospital right now and he wants to pick you up on the way. You have to wait for him outside the school gates and he will collect you. Now, hurry along." The principal looked at his watch. "But, sir," I said. "No buts," snapped the principal. "Go out and wait for him." "But, sir." "Young lady," said the principal impatiently. "Why are you still standing around?" "But, sir." "I don't have a father," I said. "We're a single-parent family. My dad died when I was a baby." The principal's jaw dropped. After that, there was a big uproar. My mother wasn't injured at all. She came down to the school and complained. The police were called. Nobody was allowed to walk home alone. Parents started picking their kids up from school, just to make sure they were safe. To this day, I still don't know who the mysterious man on the phone was and what he planned to do with me if he managed to get me in his clutches.